good evening, good afternoon, all you international lounge lizards. Welcome to your highlight of the week, our highlight of the week, wherever you are in the world. Thursday nights can only mean one thing. It's cocktails and conversation to ease the burden of your enforced incarceration and put a smile on your faces. Nick Luck here in Southwest London, England, checking in with Britney Eurton in Los Angeles, and Mark Tubridy, chief mixologist at the 21 Club in Brooklyn, New York. Britney, what do we got coming up on today's show?
Oh, I am so thrilled for our entire show. I think I've got to take my earbuds out because I'm hearing you pretty far delayed. So taking that out, can you still hear me?
Oh, you're good. Yep. You're crystal clear for me.
Right, because I heard the entire top of the show double. So
it was good. It was worth hearing twice.
Looking forward to our show this afternoon. Not only do we have two incredible cocktails, Mark, I'll let you get into that, but two of our special guests. We have Erik Johnson, who is an NHL superstar for the Colorado Avalanche, and then celebrity chef Bobby Flay, both very much involved in the horse racing industry. So this should be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. We are going to be extremely well fed later, by which time we will already, Mark Tubridy, be well watered. What do you got for us tonight?
Absolutely. Tonight's going to be a great episode. We're doing one very famous cocktail and one that I'd really like to share with people because it's one of my favorites. But we're doing a Cosmopolitan. We're going to dig into some of the history about 80s cocktails and why it was popularized on things like Sex and the City. And we're going to be making a great Boulevardier cocktail, a similar kind of brooding cousin to the Negroni. So a lot of fun stuff to come. Definitely hang in there. It's going to be a fun episode.
That could be a horse's name, brooding cousin.
Brooding cousin, yeah. Yes. We got a horse name within the first minute of this episode. We're off to a good start.
and sort of very much, I thought Cosmopolitan and Boulevardier, man about town, suave, man about town. I wondered who you were basing that on.
Well, yeah, they're both great cocktails. I'm trying to dress up for the occasion, and I think maybe I'm, channeling you as well, Nick. But they're both great, fun cocktails. The Cosmopolitan, it's a funny cocktail because when I make it, oftentimes I make it for my wife, but then after I taste it, I end up making a second one for myself. So here to kind of dismiss that myth that it's only for ladies. It's a great cocktail. We're gonna have some fun. But absolutely, you're that man about town, I think, Nick.
You're so sweet. These are great.
Yeah, you mentioned the food. Bobby Flay's making us some fried chicken to go along with the whiskey drink. I cannot wait for that. It's going to make me hungry. I wish there was some device where you could dip in and actually get food through a screen. But until then.
Guys, I just love the fact that we've got a cocktails and conversation community building up now. So many of you have been regularly tuning in, which is fantastic because I know how much you've all got to do around the world on Thursday evening as well. So it's been great to have you with us. Annie Jesse from Anchorage in Kentucky has emailed us, and I love this email. And Annie says, I want to tell you how much I enjoy the show. I'm an avid fan, just one horse and rider owner. Your show with its casual format and interesting guests is the bright spot of the week. My husband, a golfer, is now a fan after watching Bob Baffert. Thank you all for hosting and good luck. Very much hope to see you in Lexington. And Annie, we hope we can be in Lexington soon as well. And thank you so much for watching. And thank you everyone for contributing. I don't want to gush this early juncture, but why not? It's been great to have you with us. Britney, some fantastic news coming from the West Coast as well.
Absolutely. Today, Golden Gate Fields up and running once again. They were given approval by the Alameda Health County Department. And tomorrow, this was something long awaited here in Southern California. Santa Anita has been granted approval by the Los Angeles County Health Department to get up and running. So we have some really incredible cards the next couple of days, full fields, fresh horses. So I think as we've been talking about a lot the past few weeks, it looks like there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we're really excited to get back up and running on Friday. But in England, give us the latest update because I saw a few things transpiring that seemed like good news for you as well.
Inching our way there, I think. June the 1st has been the date provisionally set for sports behind closed doors to return, and that will include horse racing, provided it passes all the checks, and Public Health England approved that. There is a schedule in place, and that schedule includes essentially a start with the classics, the first classics of the season, the Guineas at Newmarket. Royal Ascot will take place in its original slot, provided we start on the 1st of June. And it's not definite yet, but on the proviso we do start the 1st of June, which looks likely, then Royal Ascot will take place in its entirety in the originally slated dates in mid-June. And then we'll have our Derby and Oaks at Epsom, of course, at the beginning of July, and then the season will kind of progress. But obviously everything behind closed doors at the moment and subject to strict protocols. And they've been racing in France with some very good racing since the beginning of the week. So in Europe, things gradually beginning to get into gear.
That's incredible. So you might have some blockbuster racing back to back to back in the span of a month, some of your best racing out there in England.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, that's the intention as things stand. And I think what's been released this week has been good front foot stuff. A lot of the purse money, I don't want to get too inside, but a lot of the purse money has come off the top end and has gone into trying to support the bottom end. So there's not a great exodus of owners across the spectrum. So the cheaper horses aren't immediately sold or dispatched or to other pursuits or whatever. So they stay in training, they keep the industry going, they keep the staff employed, and the wheels theoretically keep turning. So the grassroots in the middle is being supported properly.
Already a great way to kick off the show. Good news, great cocktails, good food, exceptional guests. What more could we want on this Thursday afternoon or night?
Well, I tell you what we all might need in all truth, wherever we are, and if we're at Saratoga in the summer, touch wood, God willing, then I think it has to be said that everybody will be advised to wear their own PPE, their own masks, and Breeders' Cup are providing you with their own custom designed masks. And if you want to find out more, breederscup.com/donate. They're being designed at the moment, and all the proceeds will go to COVID-19 charities, thinking of ever more innovative and original ways to raise money for the huge charitable effort that is required in every country in the world. There you go, 1 mask and 2 disposable filters. And I think, guys, that is just what we're going to become used to going out and about the next few months.
Yeah.
Some fashionable purple clothing to wear along with it. We have to wear it in Lexington, Kentucky for the Breeders' Cup. All on board, whatever we can do to make racing continue in a safe way. And Breeders' Cup has just done an incredible job in giving back to the industry during these hard times. And those of you at home have been so generous with your donations, because as Nick, Mark, and we've mentioned before, the primarily what we're doing here on Cocktails and Conversations. Yes, we want to have fun. We want to give you a distraction for a good hour of your day. But at the same time, we want to give back to the racing industry, because that's the reason, that we're all brought together on these Thursdays. So breederscup.com/donate. Thank you to everyone that has already donated between our guests and those of you at home.
Guys, before we crack on, I feel like I haven't asked you both how you are for a few weeks. How are you kind of keeping it together mentally?
Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm hanging in there. I'm kind of doing what keeps me sane and keeps me active, which is, coming up with creative cocktails. In addition to the amazing charitable efforts that have been going on within the industry, we're also having companies getting really creative with, cocktail competitions and fun stay-at-home sort of cocktail features. So I've been very lucky to participate in a few of those, and it makes me feel good. I know I can count on Thursday nights showcasing 2 cocktails here with you guys. But in the midst of, the rest of the week, to be able to brainstorm and come up with those ideas like I normally would, that keeps me feeling myself. So I'm very grateful for that. Yeah. How about you, Britney?
Well, Thursdays are a certainty in such uncertain times. So very much so, I do look forward to this. But to be honest, I think that initially the quarantine, the lockdown, I had a lot of anxiety, probably like most people did. Is this really happening? Is this the world that we're living in? But now, I believe 60 days into the stay-at-home orders and the lockdown, you learn that you can be at home and find ways of keeping yourself busy and mentally distracted. So it's been a lot of reading books and catching up on shows and working out. And then I'm, grateful that I can still do work from home Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So mentally, physically, all good over here. So it's positive. I hope everybody else at home is as well.
Yeah, here. We'll echo that. I think it's time to introduce our first guest.
But Nick, how are you? We can't just block you and your lovely family.
My lovely family. How I loved them all today, every minute of today. I loved each and every one of those gorgeous girls so much. As
what happened?
I attempted to bluster my way through some homeschooling. Some days are great, aren't they? Other days, you're quite happy that it's 10 minutes past 11 and there's only 50 minutes of it left, which there are here. So onwards, and we try and keep ourselves in good shape. We try and keep our horses in good shape.
Good.
We wish we could get a haircut. And I keep wondering how elite athletes keep themselves in shape during this lockdown, during the paused season in whichever sport they participate in, as we welcome NHL legend, racehorse owner, man who is going to be watching on eagerly as a horse called Rager takes to the track at Santa Anita tomorrow. Erik Johnson, good afternoon, sir.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on. Cheers.
Welcome.
Nice to be with you all.
Erik, what is the drink of choice tonight?
Britney, tonight, I had to go with Kentucky's Finest, Woodford Reserve. This was a bottle sent to me from Walker Hancock at Claiborne Farm, also a Breeders' Cup farm partner. Run Happy also stands at Claiborne, if you didn't know that. So I don't know if you've heard. But, yeah, I'm having some bourbon on the rocks tonight. And I'm happy to be with you guys. It's a nice way to break up the day and do something different in this new world that we're living in right now.
Has
What's
Nick
going on with you guys?
I thought Nick froze there. Erik, take it back for us. So we obviously know that you've played in the NHL since how long? When did you first get drafted?
2007 was my first year. I was 18 or 19, I think, and it was St. Louis then, and then I've been in Colorado since 2011, just about 10 years. And I just remember being a rookie and being 19 and having like these 35-year-old guys that I had to like go shower with, and I was like, this is really creepy. And I was like, don't drop the soap. No, but I was like, what the hell am I doing here? Like, these guys have like 4 kids and like 5 o'clock shadows, and I barely had armpit hair. And I was just like, what have I gotten myself into? And I'm, you know, we're going from San Jose to LA to Phoenix. And I remember we had a 21-day road trip one year where we started in Detroit and then went to Montreal, hit Toronto, flew across the country to San Jose, played LA, Anaheim, flew back to Columbus. And it was just like, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but that was just kind of what it was. And, you know, I've been, I think, 14 years now, and I just love every minute of it. So to have it be suspended when our season was going so well was definitely hard, but, you know, everyone's going through a little bit of tough times right now, but, you know, just grateful that I think there's some optimism that we might be playing into the summer, but it might cut into my Del Mar time.
You loved, is it fair to say you love Del Mar more than just about any other place on earth? The stories of when you had your first winner there are legendary.
I don't know about legendary, but it was pretty fun. I mean, I just remember getting into the game when I think it was 2015, Nick, and I didn't know anything. Like, I literally knew nothing. And I asked a lot of questions, and the first horse I ever owned was with a syndicate. There's a bunch of great ones out there, Eclipse, Little Red Feather, and you take 2.5% of a horse, and you really don't do anything except, you know, you get all the updates, you get to go to the races, get to go to the barn in the morning and do all that. But I literally knew nothing. And I asked a lot of questions, probably some dumb ones. I remember after I got out of the syndicate and just kind of went out on my own, I owned a horse with Doug O'Neill. And Nick, I remember him saying to me, he sent me a text and he's like, hey, Erik, I think we need to, our horse ran horrible first time out. So like 2 weeks later, he's like, hey, Erik, we need to geld this horse. And I'm like, what is gelled? I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? And I'm like, I could have just Googled it, but I'm like, what is that? What is gelled? So I called Doug. I'm like, Doug, what is gelding a horse? He's like, no, it's gelding, and we castrate him, like neutering a dog. And I'm like, he's like, are you okay with that? I was like, no, why would you cut his testicles off? And he's like, no, it's going to improve his performance and make him a healthier animal. I'm like, oh, okay, well, in that case, cut him off. This is a horse racing show, right? I can talk about that.
Yeah. All right, talk about anything.
And that's Brittany, that's your favorite angle, first time gelding.
It is my favorite angle. Sometimes horses get too thick, too big, or they don't have their mind on running, which is why they would be gelded. So safe process for anybody out there that's not familiar with gelding. But yeah, you see a massive improvement. But how did you even get involved in the first place? Was it something that you had watched before you owned horses? Did you follow racing at all? Like, when did that first introduction or thought come to you? Hey, owning a horse would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think every experience is probably different for people that get hooked on it. And I had a family member that lived out in Del Mar, actually. And when I was 16, I think, we took a family vacation down there. And one of my friends from Minnesota came with, where I'm from. And we had a free day or something like that. And he was like, there's a racetrack down the street. We could, take a cab there and, place some bets. I was like, sure, that sounds fun. And I think we were 16 and we were a little bit bigger, so we looked 18 and we were able to place some bets. And I just remember I was shocked that you could place a bet on a horse to finish third and you could make money. And so we put a show bet in, and again, I had no idea what show meant, but it means to finish in third. And we won, and I was like, this is incredible. You don't even have to pick the horse to win. You can just pick him to show, and you're in business. So I did that, and then it was many years later where I always watched the Kentucky Derby, and I think you guys probably know, for the average fan, I think most people think it's Derby, Preakness, Belmont, Breeders' Cup, and then it kind of goes away. But obviously, it's a day-to-day occurrence in horse racing. It's pretty much all the time. So I got into it. Just kind of looking online and kind of doing my research, and I got hooked up with Doug O'Neill and Dennis O'Neill and Paul Redham, who owned I'll Have Another and Nyquist, who obviously won the Kentucky Derby and had great success. I got hooked up with them and just slowly got more and more involved, and now I have like too many horses probably. So I have like 7 or 8 brood mares, and then I have a couple pinhooks and a couple horses in training, probably 10 or 15. I have 2 with Brittany's dad, Peter Eurton, Shooter Shoot, we're pretty excited about. He's going to run in the Santa Anita Derby, hopefully, if all goes well. Fingers crossed, right? So yeah, it's I've been in it about 5 years now, and it is honestly when you get bit by the horse racing bug, it's like no other feeling. I try and just explain to people that how do you like describe the feeling of when your horse wins, and it's so hard to describe. If you could just bottle it up and sell it on the street as a drug, it'd be the most popular thing in the world, because it's just the best feeling. You see your horse in the lead coming down the stretch, and it's for adrenaline junkies. It's a great adrenaline boost, and it's an amazing game, and I love it, and I'm happy to be involved with it and here talking with you guys tonight.
Yeah, it's great. It's great you're with us, Erik, and thanks so much. And we've had so many questions for you already.
Loaded with questions.
There's some great questions.
No, plenty about your hair, Erik.
Oh God,
pretty good hair.
Is that bad?
No, complimenting it. See,
you're doing better than the rest of us.
Jim Maloney, Brittany, and Erik have awesome hair. Listen, I know mine's not great, but Mark Tubridy, there's nothing wrong with that head of hair.
I appreciate that, Nick. Thank you.
I think it's a good superfective hair, I think. But,
Jill Kenny coming in. Would you cut your own hair, Erik?
Jill, I know Jill, and no, I do not cut my own. I do not cut my own hair. I've let it grow out a bit. Are even barbershops open? Have you guys gotten a haircut?
No.
Not at all.
Straying away from the hair conversation, here's a good one. Which NHL player would you not want to face on a one-on-one situation? Thank you, Buffalo Bisons GM.
Oof. I'd say probably Connor McDavid. I don't know if you guys know of him. He's Edmonton superstar, and he can make you look absolutely silly. Probably him. I think I just turned 32, and that's getting up there for defensemen. So getting a little bit slower, and those guys can blow around me sometimes. But he's probably the toughest. But there's a lot of good ones. But he's on a whole nother level. He's like Nadal right now. He just crushes you.
Nadal the horse or Nadal the player?
The horse for sure.
Robert Segura asks, would you rather win the Derby or the Stanley Cup?
Oh, easy one. I've been playing hockey since I was 5 years old, and I cut out like cardboard shape of the Stanley Cup, Nick, and I would wrap it in tinfoil, and we'd play like mini hockey in the driveway in Minnesota. My dad would flood the rink in the backyard and have it freeze over and be a hockey rink. And that's been my dream since I was 5 years old. And, you know, the cup is something that's probably the most special trophy in sports. I thought maybe this year we'd have a chance for the cup with Colorado. We were in first place for pretty much the entire year, and then the season got upended. And maybe I can get the double with the cup in the middle of the summer, and then the Derby on Labor Day with Shoot or Shoot Britney. That'd be fun.
Oh, that would be epic. Trying to cover that wouldn't be the easiest feat either. But for you, Erik, right now, how have you, this was something that Nick led into, how have you tried to stay fit physically, but also like keep your mind in check, never knowing when you're going to start the season again and if you're going to start the season again?
Yeah, I'm sure it's sort of the same for you three. We're kind of in a day-to-day, week-to-week world right now, and there's so much unknown, and it's just an uncertain time. I mean, nobody in their lifetime has dealt with this before. So for me personally, from my perspective, we can't skate. So unless you're living in like northern Canada where the lakes are still frozen, nobody's skating really. So a lot of the rinks have flooded and defrosted all the ice because it's so expensive to maintain it right now, and nobody's playing. So there's really no access. So for me, guys, I've just been in the gym and cycling a lot, and just trying to, you know, better yourself during this time. I feel like it's a good reflection period for us all, really, right? I mean, yeah, I think you find out quite a few different things. I think you find out if you like where you live, if you like your house, right? I think you're going to find that out real quick if you hate it or like it. If you have someone that you live with, I think you find out if you like them or don't like them. Or if you live alone, you're happy with yourself. So I think it's a good, you know, maybe, you know, it's obviously a tragic thing what's gone on, but I think we can learn some things about ourselves right now, and hopefully we can become better when we hit the other side.
Later in the show, Bobby Flay will be making fried chicken with us, and he's making it backstage as we speak. Looking forward to welcoming Bobby to the show tonight. But first of all, Mr. Mark Tubridy, there he is. Oh, we got a
sneak peek there.
Get me off the show. People want to see Bobby. I can leave.
Hey, Bobby. Give us a wave. There he is. Yeah. Well, it's all right. He can go now.
Yeah, well, we'll catch up with him in a bit. I think we got
us proving that he's actually coming up. Yeah. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, our first drink tonight really needs no introduction because you know it when you see it. Whether it's helping Carrie Bradshaw navigate the dating scene on Sex and the City, or jumpstarting a great bachelorette party, or simply imparting its signature pink color to a dance floor, the Cosmopolitan is arguably one of the most recognizable drinks in the world of cocktails, right up there with the martini itself. And it's a really delicious drink when it's made correctly. So what we're going to need to make our perfect Cosmopolitan tonight, and I know, Britney, are you going to be making this with me?
I will be joining you the best that I can. Of course, still no martini glasses, but I did put it in order for that and a shaker. So I'm making do with what I have, but you can still make a great cocktail. And I need you to convince me to like a Cosmopolitan, because as of right now, not a huge fan.
Not a fan. Actually, we're going to get into that. There are a couple of things about the Cosmo that tend to kind of make people for it or against it. And hopefully we can kind of clear up some of those things and teach you a recipe that I think everybody can get on board with. So we are going to start.
Against it?
I don't know. Britney is on the other side of the fence, so we're going to have to slowly bring her over. But I think I'm up for the challenge. So we are going to need some Tito's Handmade vodka, of course. We're going to need triple sec. I'm going to be using a high-end brand, so Cointreau. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. We're going to need some freshly squeezed lime juice, or just a lime that we can squeeze in there, and then cranberry juice. You're ready to go. Look at you. All right, and this is a cocktail that we're going to be shaking. So we're going to need some sort of cocktail shaker. Britney, I think you've got an interesting one tonight you showed me earlier. Let's see what it is. I don't know if she can hear me. Okay, but
don't mind me. I'll go.
You'll see later on when we get to the shaking part that Britney's got an interesting way of doing this. So we're going to need our cocktail shaker. We're going to need a martini glass, of course. It's very iconic for this drink. And we're still going to want a fine strainer, as we talked about with removing some of those ice particles. So we'll get to that later on. So
Mark, I have a question for you.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt, but so I'm drinking this Woodford, right?
Yeah.
Am I not a purist if I'm drinking it on the rocks? Is that watering it down, or is that frowned upon, or what's
no, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Yeah, we have, a lot of whiskey drinkers, they have it neat or they have it on the rocks. When you really want to start being kind of careful with that decision is when you get to very aged premium spirits. Of course, we love, Maker's Mark, Woodford Reserve, they're great bourbons. If you start talking about a 40-year-old Scotch, that's when maybe we would have a conversation. Maybe don't put it on ice.
Yeah.
At most, a little splash of water to open it up. Actually, a little splash of water can really loosen the proteins in a whiskey and allow a lot of those aromas to come out. So there's really nothing wrong with adding a little bit of water. In your case, for bourbon, it's completely acceptable. Every day we get plenty of orders for, bourbon on the rocks. One thing I would recommend, and we're going to get to this when we talk about the Boulevardier, is if you can invest in a great silicone mold for the large ice cubes. That's really great because you're going to be able to keep your drink nice and cold without over diluting it.
Perfect. Thank you.
But it's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. So guys, we're going to start off with our cranberry juice, Brittany. That's going to be our first ingredient.
Okay.
Now, the cranberry juice is ultimately what makes a Cosmo, because without it, essentially what we have is a kamikaze, right? So vodka, triple sec, and lime juice. Mm-hmm. Ironically, as much as the cranberry juice is essential to making a Cosmo, it's the one ingredient that people are very kind of like wary about having too much in the drink. So every time someone orders a Cosmo at the 21 Club, the first thing I hear is, go easy on the cranberry. Mm-hmm. And that's probably because they've had a bartender that served them something that more closely resembles a vodka cranberry than an actual Cosmo itself. So speaking to your point, Brittany, that could be one of the reasons why maybe you've had a bad one in the past.
I think my fear is it's being too sweet. So that would be my initial reaction to a Cosmo. Oh, it's going to give me a headache because it's so sweet.
Sure, absolutely. And we're going to address that because as we move on to our next ingredient after the cranberry juice, we're going to introduce some acidity.
If you drink 12 of them, it'll give you a headache.
Hey, you never know. One might. So how much cranberry juice do I do? I'm using I'm using my Brooklyn shot glass.
Okay,
so,
we're gonna do 3/4 of an ounce. So fill that up about, I don't know how large that is, but you want about 3/4 of that.
Okay, yeah, it looks like a standard.
Standard ounce. Okay, so 3/4 of an ounce of cranberry juice.
Got it.
Beautiful. Okay, we're gonna move on to our freshly squeezed lime juice. Mm-hmm. And I know Bobby's backstage, but I know he could attest to the importance of using fresh citrus juices. We've spoken about that in other weeks. After a little bit of time, those citrus juices will oxidize and the flavor will deteriorate. So we do want to make sure that our juices are nice and fresh. So we're going to do the same amount of the lime juice. Okay. So whatever you just did there, just do the same amount, 3/4 of an ounce. Now this is going to help with your concern about it being too sweet.
Right.
We're introducing an acid element. And even though we're going to balance that out with the triple sec next, with the Cointreau, we've got enough acid in here that the overall cocktail is not going to be too sweet. But what's interesting is that when this drink was popularized back in the 80s, most likely they weren't using freshly squeezed lime juice. They were using Rose's lime juice, which is a clarified lime cordial. And that's one of the reasons why when you see pictures of Cosmos, oftentimes they look dark red and transparent because they're probably using the roses. But these days, in the midst of this cocktail renaissance that we're having right now, we've embraced the use of fresh juices. And so I definitely recommend you doing this with fresh lime juice. It's going to elevate the cocktail a lot, and it's going to take away your fear of it being too sweet.
Perfect. Yes, okay. Use fresh limes for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next we're going to move on to our triple sec. Again, you can use, I saw the brand that you have there. There are plenty of great brands. I do love Cointreau. It's the high-end brand of triple sec. And this is a great investment. Even if you have sort of like a 375 milliliter bottle here, nothing too large, this is fantastic, not just for your Cosmopolitans, but for your margaritas, for your sidecars. Really great investment. Beautiful high-end triple sec here.
Brittany, are you making this as we go? Are you like, oh, yeah. You're cheating?
It was harder for me to find in the grocery store than I thought. I mean, honestly, right now, grocery stores are kind of like war zones. You don't really want to be in there for too long, so you run through. And so I tried to find it, but I'm sure Cointreau was actually there. I just didn't realize that was what I need.
Okay. And it works perfectly well with triple sec as well, with the regular triple sec. So don't stress that. Oftentimes when we're talking about these cocktails, I try to give you options, but the truth is that the way that we're doing it with the recipes, it's going to be delicious regardless, I think. So we're going to do an ounce of that. So you're going to fill that all the way in that glass that you have there.
All right.
Okay. And now we're moving on to the boozy stuff. Our Tito's Handmade Vodka from Austin, Texas. We're going to do 2 ounces of this.
Okay.
So this is kind of cool because the drink is a relatively strong drink. It's somewhere in the same realm as sort of a margarita. But obviously it's going to go down very, very smooth. It's almost like alcoholic pink lemonade is the way that I think about it sometimes. So 2 ounces. So
Got
2 of those glasses that you have there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now this is a shaken cocktail. Remember, when we have things like juices involved, we do want to shake it to really emulsify the ingredients and also get it some nice body. Okay.
Shake last week.
What's that?
Nick's shaking skills.
Nick's shaking skills. That's right. Bob Baffert wasn't a fan of his shaking skills, but we love you anyway, Nick.
Thanks, Mark.
Nick, what are you drinking? Are you having white wine?
I'm on the white wine this evening.
Nice.
Yeah,
Chardonnay, Sauv Blanc.
It's a Chardonnay. It's a Puy. It's like a Puy Fuise, but not quite as good.
Very nice.
That kind of thing. Gerald O'Brien says, Nick, the Islanders are building a new area next to Belmont Park. Would you like to play for them? I don't think that's meant for me somehow.
You can call me Nick.
Otherwise, I fancy the Islanders would be at a bit of a disadvantage. I'm thinking that's for you, Erik.
Yeah, I mean, if I could walk over from Belmont to the game within 5 minutes, I'd be in, right? You could play the double.
Never a bad thing. Never a bad thing.
And then I could go to Mark's bar or restaurant. He could make me a bunch of drinks.
I got you. Anytime.
Where's your spot, Mark?
So I work at the 21 Club on 52nd Street between 5th and 6th Avenue here in Manhattan. Well, I live in Bushwick, but in Manhattan. It's a fantastic old school speakeasy. It's been around since New Year's Eve, 1929. We have a hidden Prohibition era wine cellar, thousands of items hanging from the ceiling given to us by regular customers over the years. So it's sort of a living museum, but it's a lot of fun, and we do a lot of great classic cocktails. So I would love to have you, Erik, anytime.
That'd be awesome. You can catch a game at Madison Square Garden, and then maybe a couple of cocktails after at the speakeasy.
Hey, listen, you name the time and place, we're going to do it.
Sounds good, man.
Go ahead and shake, Britney.
That's much better. In perfect step. That's a thing of beauty.
In my thermos.
Yeah,
it's a thing of beauty. Mike Cooper says, where is Britney located? Mike, I'm sorry. These days we can't track your IP address. Just saying.
All right, so we're going to strain our cocktail here. I'm sorry to interrupt, Nick. And we do want to fine strain this cocktail. Now, again, the reason why we're doing that is to get rid of some of those ice chips that come along from shaking. If those end up in the glass, it's fine, but it will dilute the drink a little bit more as it sits there. Okay. Now, this is the color that we're looking for. All right. This looks good. All right.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That was much improved from my drink the other two.
Did you try it? Do you like it?
No, I haven't tried.
In one.
Now, I'm waiting for the reaction.
Oh, that's good. No, that's so much better. Yeah, it's not as sweet. That was great. Awesome. It'll be perfect to sip on while we watch Bobby Flay make his chicken.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that first of all, Mark Tubridy, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, thank you very much, guys.
Well done, Mark.
We can garnish that with a lemon twist. I don't want to keep you guys, but go ahead and garnish with a lemon twist or a lime wedge, okay?
Perfect.
So thank you, guys. Yeah.
Right. Well, whether you're twisting or wedging, it's time for us to bring Bobby Flay into this broadcast. Broadcast makes it sound rather grander than it is.
Hey.
Cocktails and conversation. Here he is, Mr. Bobby Flay. Good evening, sir.
What's happening, everybody? What's going on?
Cheers, Bobby. How are you?
Bobby.
I feel like I'm a little behind because I haven't started drinking yet, but I'm going to make the other drink with you.
Awesome. The Boulevardier?
Yeah. Because I have my Bourbon, and I have my Campari, and I have my, what else do I need?
Sweet Vermouth?
Vermouth, yes, exactly.
Okay.
Awesome. What kind of bourbon you got, Bobby?
It's unidentified.
Secret stash.
But I drink Makers, I drink Woodford Reserve, I drink all the Breeders' Cup supporters. Let's put it that way.
There you go. Perfect.
Just for tonight's exercise, we're just going to pretend it's Maker's Mark, Bobby, and
whatever you want. Whatever you guys.
How have you been doing? How have you been keeping? Have you been managing to keep busy and keeping the show on the road?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been shooting some TV from my house because that's the only place we can shoot it. So I've been doing a bunch of, like everybody else in around the world, we're cooking at home more than we ever have before. I mean, I'm cooking 3 meals a day at my house, and so I think that it's making the world a better cook in general because we're cooking every day. Even Britney Eurton's cooking. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, I mean, I got to get a cookbook.
Oh,
Your cheat sheet.
I did drop that off in front of her building, and then I think she came down and just scooped it up before somebody else took it. But
Absolutely. So this is my version or first try at Bobby's Bolognese. So, Bobby, my only issue with this was we didn't have rigatoni because there wasn't any at the store. So that gluten-free pasta folded a little bit. It wasn't al dente like I'd like it, but I mean, it looks pretty. It tastes good.
Yeah, it looks good. Did it taste good?
Yeah, it's delicious.
Great. That's all that matters. I mean,
so we're all pretending to be cooks now, aside from you, who actually is.
Great. So I'm making fried chicken. I even though the Derby wasn't running a couple of Saturdays ago, I still made fried chicken and I made bourbon cocktails and biscuits. It's something I do every year, whether I'm at the Derby or watching it at home. And to me, it just evokes horse racing in general, Breeders' Cup as well. So I just took the fried chicken out of the oil because it was getting overcooked. But I'll just tell you what I did. So basically, I take the chicken and I cut it into pieces and I marinate it in some buttermilk and then some granulated garlic and some sweet paprika, and I let that sit for like a couple of hours. And the buttermilk helps to tenderize the chicken, and it also gives it a nice kind of tang as well, sort of underlying. And then I take the chicken and I dredge it in some flour with some more of the paprika and the garlic and some salt and pepper, and I fry it in canola oil. So it's a light oil. It could be vegetable oil or canola oil or something along those lines. And I cook mine in a cast iron pan. Here's the chicken. I don't know if you guys can see this.
Oh, yeah.
But that's what you want. You want it to be really nice and crispy, obviously nice and juicy on the inside. I mean, cooking fried chicken, people take it for granted. It's a hard thing to accomplish because you have to have two things that are perfect: crispy, crusty outside, and it has to be perfectly cooked on the inside. And any alteration in either one of those, you kind of blow it, right? So it's all about the timing.
What about the heat? What about the heat, Bobby? What's the best heat for this?
In terms of the oil? Yeah. Hot.
As hot as you can get it?
No. It's a good question. About 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that is in Celsius, but
it's like 180, I think.
Yes, exactly. And then I always like kind of like that southern thing. I love honey with my fried chicken because Mark was making a bourbon cocktail, which obviously is a big part of Kentucky. But also brought in Campari, which is Italian, and the sweet vermouth. Italy is the other thing that besides horse racing and Kentucky, the other thing I'm obsessed with is Italy. So I kind of love this cocktail. So I took some honey and I took some Calabrian chilies from the south of Italy and some mustard. And then all I do is I just kind of drizzle it on top of the chicken, just as it's nice and warm. And then I sprinkle a little bit of some lime zest, and then you serve it. That's really it. I have some biscuits in the oven that are gonna be ready in a second, and I'll take those out.
Bobby, how hard would this be to make for like an average Joe? Because I would mess up a grilled cheese. Like, so like how could I make this at home? Because I'm a trash cook.
It's really actually very easy if you just follow what I just said. And actually, Erik, I'll give you another tip. This is just for me and you, okay? Because I want to make sure you have success.
Tell me, buddy.
After you marinate the chicken, take it out of the buttermilk and put it on a sheet tray and put it in the oven for like 10 minutes, about 350 degrees. And it will actually cook the chicken about halfway. So this way you're kind of safe in your bet. When you dredge the chicken in the flour and fry it, you're already almost halfway there cooking it, so you won't have raw chicken in the middle, and that's the key.
Okay. When you said it's difficult to make fried chicken, I got all nervous because I was thinking about making it, and then I'm like, well, now it's all difficult. I'm like, I'm scared. But now I feel confident.
Yeah. Well, listen, I don't see Mark here, so I'm just going to start drinking. Is that cool?
Yeah. You need to drink. You need to drink away, Bobby.
Yes, you don't need to wait until we make that next cocktail.
I was just trying to be polite, but I don't think I can do it anymore. I'm ready to go.
You've been drinking for 5 hours, haven't you?
We'll bring Mark in to make that other cocktail. But while Bobby's getting a drink, Erik, he was talking about the fact that he does this for every Derby, but you're typically busy every Derby, right? You're still in the season?
Typically, Britney, yeah, I am. So I'll watch it at home. We were in San Jose last year during the playoffs, and we actually had a guy on my team who came up to me in the morning before the Derby, and he was like, "What do you think of this horse Country House?" And I was like, "I think he could maybe get up for the Super, maybe the Try." And he's like, "God, there's something about him. I like him." This guy knew nothing about horse racing. He went to Harvard. So he's a smart guy, and it's the only horse he bet, and he put $100 win and show on Country House.
Wow.
The only bet that he made. We had an off day that day or something during the playoffs. But yeah, typically, Britney, I wouldn't be able to make it, but hopefully this year I can, since it's Labor Day, and hopefully your dad's horse that I'm a co-owner and can get there, right? Santa Anita Derby.
That would be nice. Bobby, did you have Country House? You made a I wasn't sure whether the face was a grimace or a joy.
No, it was a raised eyebrow of disbelief.
No. I'm laughing because I was standing next to a good friend of all ours, Peter Rotundo, who runs PR for Breeders' Cup, and he had it. And the only reason why I knew he had it is because he screamed louder than anybody at the racetrack. Just like I kept saying to him during the time after the race, after the horses had crossed the wire, and the stewards had made the decision. It was like 20-something minutes. I kept saying to him, "I'll bet you anything you want to bet. They are never taking this horse down. It's the Kentucky Derby. It's never going to happen." And of course, I was wrong.
So
and now they have an adorable dog.
Yes, I was going to say.
Steward S. Inquiry. Can we get a little show and tell of both Nacho Flay, Bobby's
you want to see Nacho?
Steward S. Inquiry? And Erik, you have a couple of dogs. Where are they?
I have a crew of canines. They're outside behaving themselves. I think you might have heard some barking, so I muted for a bit, but they might be swimming right now, getting some sun.
I think it's an appropriate time for a little show and tell.
Here we go. There he is. He's our producer there, everybody, on the top left. If he's top left for you, Steward S. Inquiry, named after the result of the Derby 2019. And there's Nacho.
Nacho.
The largest feline I've ever seen outside of a jungle.
Wow. Look at that.
Cat.
Serious cat.
How did he get his name?
I don't know. He looks like nacho cheese. I don't know.
Stewie's just, look how good that dog is. He's just sitting. Stewie. Yeah. Stewie.
He's essentially a person.
He's calm enough to be our producer, I think. Yeah. He's sitting there.
I think I have a visitor.
You have to be calm to be our producer, right?
Yeah. Bobby, what was the last thing that you scooped into your drink? Was that a brandy cherry?
Yeah, Mark's paying attention. Exactly. I have a round of cherries. Is that an okay thing to do?
Why not? Why not? Okay. Yeah, usually, I mean, for Boulevardier, sometimes we do an orange.
He hit the pad.
I think a brandy cherry is always good.
Erik, who's the buddy?
This is my buddy, Bo. He is not a gelding, for anyone that's wondering. He is intact, and he wants to get the hell out of here. So there you go.
Hey, Erik, you're the horse you run tomorrow at Santa Anita. Again, it's first time gelding.
Yes, tomorrow. Nick. Yeah, Rager with Andrew Lerner. He took a nice third last out at Oaklawn, so we're excited to get him back to the turf sprinting. So we're just excited to be back racing at Santa Anita. It feels like Christmas or opening day just to be back racing at Santa Anita, even without spectators. So I'm excited. He's got a really good chance, and I'm sure Britney will bet him. That's her favorite angle.
First time gelding. Yeah. I gotta hold on to my money. Too much on lounge sets. Go ahead, Bobby.
I actually have a horse that's supposed to run in about 10 days at Santa Anita, and she was named after a Breeders' Cup moment that I had. In 2010, I won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly race with a horse named More Than Real, and she won really well. She was 16-1, but she kind of drew off at the end, and the announcer, I guess it was probably Trevor, right?
It was,
yeah. His last call before she crossed the finish line was, "And More Than Real wins convincingly." So I named a filly named Convincingly, and hopefully she'll get back to the Breeders' Cup. Who knows?
Love it. Speaking of the Breeders' Cup, each of you probably have some memorable moments just from big races in general. Do you each have a favorite day spent at the track? Erik, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, probably, I think it was Bowie's Hero. He won the Shadwell Turf Mile at Keeneland last summer, and that's a Breeders' Cup winning you're in. So he was training really well all summer at Del Mar, and Phil D'Amato had him perfect, and Flavian Prat gave him a hell of a ride. You can see him on the far outside here with the turquoise or lime green cap on, and he just mows them all down. And he ended up taking 5th in the Breeders' Cup behind some really nice fillies, Uni and Got Stormy. So he's actually preparing for his comeback. I think we're going to run him. I think it's the Thunder Road at Santa Anita, one of those stakes in the middle of June, and then kind of chart our path to the Breeders' Cup. So anytime you can win a win and you're in for the Challenge Series and the Breeders' Cup is exciting. And a grade 1 at Keeneland, I mean, that's why I got into the game, to do something like that. So it's just a special horse to be a part of, and hopefully it can continue on this year.
How's that chick?
Oh, look at that. Erik, I was going to ask, would you, this year it's going to not be possible. Would you ever think of bringing him here, Bowie's Hero, for Ascot?
Maybe. I actually own a quarter, so I'm not the majority owner. So I own them with my buddy Saul Kuman and a guy named Mark Martinez. So if they all want to do it, I think we'd be down for it. But I absolutely love Ascot, Nick. I think it's a wonderful thing. I'd love to try and get over there. I don't know if I could fit in one of those top hats though, but I'd have to try. So yeah, maybe down the road. I mean, he's a really nice grass horse. So I think you could maybe see us there eventually. I wonder when you guys going to start. Are you going to open up June 1st? I heard.
Yeah, that's the plan. I think if there's no pushback from government, the protocols haven't been met. I think they're agreeing that sports behind closed doors June the 1st, and the British Horse Racing Authority has a program of events lined up, and prize money structures in place. Well, a lot of people doing a lot of hard work behind the scenes to get all the bits in place. So fingers crossed, Ascot will go ahead.
Couldn't the Queen just be like, "Hey, I have a horse running. Let's get Ascot going."
Right?
Yeah.
Doesn't she play the trump card?
Throw the gun.
Unintended.
They'd have to run it all past her. I mean, no matter what happens, there's no doubt about that. I've never been left in any doubt that her involvement in it remains vital and very real. But obviously, I don't think even she will be able to attend this time round. So I think it's proper behind closed doors, a bit like you're going to have in Santa Anita. And I'm not even sure, who's going to be allowed on the ground. But at least there'll be an event of some sort, and then make us look forward to it next year, really.
Mm-hmm. Bobby, I'm going to ask you mid-chew. Erik was saying earlier that the thrill of winning a horse race, if you bottled it up and sold it, we'd have millions of dollars. For you, what do you have? You won so many big races. It's probably hard to narrow it down to one, but can you describe that feeling of winning a race and perhaps maybe a favorite moment?
I mean, I'm not just saying this because we're on the Breeders' Cup telecast, but it was the Breeders' Cup. Although they're going to show the Belmont Stakes, which wasn't big as well. This is Creator's win at the Belmont, which was the most perfect ride ever by Irad. I mean, he saved every inch, and honestly, that's what he won by. You can see him now. He's second coming through the center. He's going to get. It's literally the last breath. I mean,
did you know you had it? I mean, it was a matter of just centimeters.
I jumped off a chair into a friend of mine's arms. Thank goodness he caught me. And I just looked up to him and I said, "Do we have it?" He's like, "We got it." And I believed him. I mean, and that was it. I mean, that was an amazing moment, because being a native New Yorker, winning the Belmont Stakes is obviously, it's beyond bucket list. You can't imagine you can actually do it. But, listen, I spent my high school days in New York City, not going to high school, but going to Aqueduct and Belmont and Saratoga. So to be able to go to the winner's circle with my daughter, Sophie, was amazing.
Yeah,
Doesn't Sophie have horses of her own now, Bobby?
She does. She every once in a while she'll have a piece of a horse here and there. Yeah, for sure. She's definitely into it. If you see Sophie at the races, you understand that she loves it. She loves the environment. Jane Motion, Graham's daughter, and Sophie are, they're running mates. They're 1 and 1A at the races, and they have the best time. And really, they're the generation that's gonna bring us to the next level in terms of involvement and enthusiasm. And I think that's just as important than anything else.
No, absolutely. I saw both of them at Saratoga when I had the pleasure of getting up there. Saratoga, a special place for each of you. Erik, I know you had a victory at Saratoga. What was that? Because you were on site. So what was that moment like for you?
Yeah, Brittany, that was a lot of fun. I mean, Saratoga is like the Taj Mahal of racing. It's I feel like when you go there, you go back in the 50s or something. It's just it's an incredible feeling. So we had a 2-year-old filly named Comical that I actually had bought as a yearling out of the TaylorMade consignment, and I planned on pinhooking her. She was in the OBS March sale, didn't meet what we wanted to sell her for. She failed to meet a reserve, and I sent her to Doug O'Neill, and Doug did a great job with her. She won first time out, and then we sent her to the Schuylerville at Saratoga. And I don't know if you guys remember opening day last year was a rainy mess, so we were kind of nervous if she'd like the mud. And I was with some of my good friends, Saul Cuman and Dave Kenny, and we went out from California out there, and she just held on at the wire to win the Schuylerville. And it was cool because it's difficult. I mean, you buy the horse as a yearling, you break it, you see it go through the 2-year-old sale, see it break its maiden, and there's just so much effort that goes into getting a horse that far. And she just missed by a neck in the Chandelier at Santa Anita, and then ran an okay race in the Breeders' Cup before we sold her. But that's just why you get in the game. I mean, like we were talking about earlier, to get a stakes win at Saratoga within the first couple of years of owning horses is just a bucket list experience. And I'm sure Bobby can attest to it for what he's done owning horses, and you two as well. So it was quite the thrill. And I don't remember all of it because I probably had too many Woodfords and Maker's Mark, but we had a good time that day.
Yeah. This is More Than Real.
Yeah.
Is that her on the front?
She's in front, yeah. And this is where Trevor says, and she wins convincingly. It's great.
And she wins convincingly.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Sometimes they show us going crazy. Okay, anyway. So Saratoga, I've been going to Saratoga. Is literally the one thing that I put on my calendar every single year that cannot be moved. It is why I am interested in horse racing. The place is magical. Erik and everybody else that's been there can attest to this. There is an unsaid magic to the place. You don't even know what it is, but it draws you there. We're not going to get into the East Coast, West Coast thing. I understand Del Mar. Brittany,
I'm going to push.
We're going to have to pull you up, Brittany, but as an East Coaster, Saratoga is for many people the place where they fall in love with the game. And right. I have a dubious record there though, because I have won races at Saratoga, but I have never. I've been going there for 30 something years. I've never been at Saratoga when I've won a race. I've never been to the winner's circle.
Wow.
It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
So do you not know when you have a horse running them because in your head, maybe you're not winning?
Oh, no. I mean, that would be so amazing if I could win. I mean, I've run second in a bunch of grade ones and things like that, but I've never even won a maiden race there. It's crazy.
But this is it. As soon as you bring up that Saratoga Del Mar thing, you get the comments. Jody says Toga's the place to be. Roshan, Saratoga's the mecca of horse racing. Molly McGill, Del Mar, 17 exclamation marks. Jeffrey says Keeneland, baby. But it's the whole summer thing, isn't it?
They're different. They're so different, and they're so great in their own way.
I find they're so different. They're very difficult to compare.
I mean, I'm going to be completely biased. I grew up every single summer of my life going to Del Mar, and I didn't understand what everybody was talking about when they said that Saratoga was the place to be in the summer. And then I went to Saratoga and I understood, but I'm still partial to Del Mar. There's something you say magical about Saratoga. It's a different kind of magic at Del Mar. It's not even, it's apples and oranges. You can't even compare. You've got the ocean, to the left of you, and then the incredible racing right in front of you, and then the restaurants surrounding it. It's a different kind of magic.
For me, my favorite part of the favorite parts of my life, honestly, that this game affords me is 6:30 a.m. Saratoga, any day of the week, just watching the horses go by. Cup of coffee in my hand, mediocre egg sandwich. I'm good. It's like, but I don't want it to be anything other than that. It's so amazing. Erik, I'm sure you can attest to that.
Yeah, I agree, Bobby. I feel like Saratoga is like Sinatra, and then Del Mar is like
Bing Crosby.
Bing Crosby. There you go. I literally, if I lived on the East Coast, I'm sure I would think Saratoga is better. But like you guys have said, they're both incomparable. Del Mar is like maybe more Hollywood, and Saratoga is more, old fashioned, but both are unique in their own way. And I love both. I mean, if I could spend an equal amount of time at both, I would, but I'm just more centrally located at Del Mar, and that's where most of my horses are. And I want to watch them run live. I don't want to be not in the winner's circle, right, Bobby?
No, definitely not. Definitely not. One of the nice things about, this game that continues, even though racing has sort of been somewhat stopped in most places, is that the breeding continues, and the foals have continued to hit the ground, all over Kentucky and Florida and all the other places that they're bred. And it's been so fun to be able to keep in contact with Kentucky, and you get pictures of your foals when they're born. I mean, it's just there's nothing like building those families. Which is what
you keep your mares, Bobby. You keep your mares at Stone Farm? Is that where you keep your mares?
My mares at Stone Farm. It is one of the most beautiful places in the world. It's amazing.
I went to a wedding at Stone Farm, Jack Nelman and Alex Hancock, and it was the hottest day of my entire life. I think I went through 3 suits. It was gross. I was sweating and it was nasty, but it was an unbelievable, picturesque backdrop to have a wedding. But that Kentucky humidity got me. That's why I like Del Mar. You don't get rained on, and there's no humidity like Saratoga, right?
That's true.
Yeah. Nick, this discussion could go on for.
It could. I'm just popping a vote in for the clam tacos at the fish tacos at the Brigantine, and then that gives Del Mar another vote or two.
That it does.
Or the moose, pamplemousse.
Yeah, right. But we're going to bring Mark back in just a bit to make that final drink. And Erik, we've probably kept you long enough. Before you go, though, we have a question for each of you. We're going to kind of add this into the show as a final thought or one last thing. So for each of you, what is the movie that you can quote from start to finish?
Oh, my God.
Keep it clean.
The Godfather.
Really? Can you give us a quote?
I'll do a food one. Leave the gun, take the cannolis.
Is The Godfather the Monday, Tuesday? When is that The Godfather?
That's Godfather too.
Okay.
Yeah, don't get it twisted.
I got that from You've Got Mail, actually, because they quote The Godfather and You've Got Mail. Okay, Erik, what about you?
I'd probably say Wedding Crashers. That's I don't know. I think that's one of the funniest ones I've seen. So what's one of the good lines? Crab cakes and football. That's what Maryland does, right? There's a ton of ones I could probably cross the line on, but I won't.
Rule 45, play like a champion.
There you go. That's a good one too.
Play like a champion. I even botched that line. Nick, you're a movie guy. Do you have one?
Listen, Britney, we've all botched a few lines this evening. I think we should just say to Erik, thank you so much for being with us this evening, and your passion for the sport just shines through. I can't believe you only properly got into the game 5-6 years ago, and your knowledge and enthusiasm for it is infectious. It's great. It's great that you've been able to join us tonight.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. It's nice talking to you. You guys are, all three of you, great ambassadors for the game, and I appreciate talking to you guys. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to see you guys down the road when this quarantine's over.
Thanks so much. Hey, and good luck tomorrow.
Thanks. Cheers, guys.
We'll be cheering Erik on tomorrow because he has a horse called Rager running on the comeback day of Santa Anita, as Santa Anita gears back up into action after what's been a really challenging time for you all. But Mark is back with us for one glorious finale.
Absolutely. So you guys saw Bobby making that drink. You saw how easy it was for him to do that. That's one of the benefits of drinks like this. Right, Bobby? More or less equal parts of all three ingredients. He whipped that up in about 15 seconds. And I would expect no less from Bobby Flay, but still it speaks to the simplicity of the drink. The Boulevardier, like many classic cocktails, was actually created during the dry days of Prohibition. And you know what's interesting is, just like I'm getting used to doing these virtual bartending sessions, bartenders in America during Prohibition also had to get creative. So many of them moved across the pond to Europe and started kind of continuing their craft over there. And one such bartender, Harry McElhone, who's famous for Harry's New York Bar in Paris, who's an extremely prolific bartender, and it was in his 1927 book, Bar Flies and Cocktails, that we first see a recipe printed for the Boulevardier. Now, the drink was actually the creation of one of his notable guests, and it calls for, it's very similar to the Negroni. It actually calls for whiskey instead of gin as the base, but other than that, it's exactly the same, which kind of makes you think maybe they taste very similar, right? But they don't. That's the beauty of it, is just with that simple substitution of whiskey instead of gin, you have two completely different cocktails. The Negroni kind of lands on the light and botanical side, whereas the Boulevardier remains rich and earthy. So two very different flavors. To make our Boulevardier today, Bobby already knows, he did it super fast. We're going to need some great quality bourbon. We've got Maker's Mark here. We will need Campari. Okay. And
you say that, you're almost saying that apologetically, Mark. We will need Campari.
We will. No. It's a celebration. It's absolutely a celebration. Now, you'll see, so Bobby shook his Boulevardier, which is completely fine if you want to introduce some more kind of aeration into it.
That means I did it wrong. That means I
yeah, I got it as well.
I was trying to sugarcoat it.
It's fine. It's wrong, but it's fine.
Traditionally, when we have all spirit ingredients, like cocktails like this, we do want to stir. That way we have that controlled dilution. And more importantly, we're not introducing air into it. So that way we maintain that silky texture. That being said, a lot of people do like that frothiness, or maybe you want a little bit more dilution. So it's kind of up to your taste. But we will need a mixing glass for this cocktail. I know.
That's what I want, more dilution in my cocktail.
Yeah. Well, that comes from shaking. That comes from shaking.
I know. It's what I messed it up. I got it.
No, you're good. You're good. And we can do a rocks glass for this cocktail. We'll get to garnish a little bit later on. But we're going to begin with always our least expensive ingredient first. We've spoken about that in prior weeks. So if we do make a mistake later on, we're not tossing the really valuable kind of expensive ingredient.
That's good.
So we're going to start. I think almost, Bobby, you can almost do another one at this point, because I know that last one was from a little while ago. Putting him on the spot.
I need ice, right?
Yes. Yes.
They can have their own show. I'm enjoying watching.
I know, right? You see this back and forth.
we are really just facilitators.
Yeah. All right. So while Bobby's getting the ice, he's ready. So we're going to be doing our sweet vermouth first. I'm going to be doing 1.5 ounces. It doesn't matter, Bobby, just as long as you do the same amount of each ingredient. So kind of eyeball it.
Oh, it's 1:1. It's like a Negroni.
Exactly, equal parts, which makes it so easy. So I'm going to be doing 1.5 ounces. Now, remember, sweet vermouth, or vermouth in general, is really that fortified, aromatized wine. Bobby, you probably use that more in cooking with dry vermouth, right? You don't really use sweet vermouth so much? Okay. Now, we are going to move on to, and I'm going to say it happily, Campari. Now, we were talking about Aperol last week because we were doing the Aperol spritzes for Mother's Day. Now, just like Aperol, Campari is an Italian aperitif, but it is more bitter, kind of more pronounced bitterness, and stronger. So this is a more assertive Italian aperitif, but you're going to find that it blends very well in the cocktail. So again, we're just doing the same amount. Whatever you did for that first one, do it again here. I'm doing 1.5 ounces.
Bobby, where's your shaker from? I like it. It would look good in my kitchen.
It's
West Elm?
Eurton barrel.
Oh, okay. That's where I ordered my martini glasses from.
Yeah, perfect.
All right.
I need to add to the set because the Starbucks shaker is just not getting it done.
By the end of this series, Brittany, you're going to be set up. You're going to have absolutely everything you need for a great cocktail. But you're doing great, though. All right, we're going to add our bourbon here, the same amount, so equal parts, super easy. And that's it. So 3 ingredients, equal parts, very, very easy. So we are going to be stirring at this time. So let's add some ice to our mixing glass. All right. Now, again, when we stir drinks like this, we're able to control the dilution a little bit more. But for me, the biggest part of that is that you're maintaining that silky texture. So you're not getting that frothiness on top. It's going to give it that really kind of clean appearance at the end. So let's go ahead and stir this just like the Negroni. So you're going to need a spoon, Bobby. He's going to hate me. You're good.
Look at
there
that.
you go. There you go. So we're going to stir this. Now, just like the Negroni, the Boulevardier benefits from a little extra dilution. So because we have very strong ingredients in there. So we're going to stir this for a good 30 seconds. I'm going to try to say meaningful things during that time. You know, one thing that's nice about the Boulevardier is that you see it's an example of how sometimes substituting one ingredient in a cocktail can make a huge difference. So when I'm at the bar at the 21 Club and someone asks me for kind of a bartender's choice cocktail, you know, just whatever you feel like, what I usually do, the process in my head, and maybe Bobby, you're the same way with food, is I think about a classic cocktail and then I make modifications to that. So I do little variations.
Yeah, because
you
have a foundation that you already know works.
Exactly.
And you can play
exactly. With it. Yeah. So I take whatever seasonal produce is close by, or if I have some interesting syrups on hand, those are ways for me to incorporate it. But in my head, what I'm doing is, okay, I've got a Negroni and I'm just going to swap out this. All right, guys. So at this point, we should have some really nice dilution. The cocktail should be nicely chilled. We're going to strain this over fresh ice. And what I actually have here.
Okay. I hope.
So here I've got a large ice cube. We were talking to
Flay.
This is going to be worth rewatching for anyone that or anyone that missed it tonight. Now I've got a large cube here, but if you have smaller cubes, that's okay. Now, the whole argument for larger ice cubes is basically the way that ice works, and this is a whole topic for a different day, is that the larger it is, the more slowly it melts. So it's all about surface area. So that's one reason why we want to stir this and serve that over a large ice cube. Now, one thing...
Sometimes, you know, when you get those like outlandish big round ice cubes that fill most of the glass.
Yeah.
Like really huge ones, like the size of an orange.
Yeah,
I mean, you lift the glass to your lips, and all you're getting is ice, just kind of bang, ice.
Yeah, I think you do have to be sensible with the volume of the drink versus the ice cube. But in general, those larger ice cubes, especially for drinks like this, where you have a delicate flavor profile, they maintain the temperature, but they also maintain the integrity of the drink. So that's really how you kind of consider that. One thing we didn't get to talk about. Now, first of all, I have to say, I love the brandy cherry idea there. I'm a big fan of those because I'm a Manhattan drinker. But I like to do an orange twist.
I'm a rain of cherries every time.
There you go. I like to do an orange twist on my Boulevardier. And this is kind of a good point to bring up. I love it.
You know,
making all this up. This is not even how you make it. No.
He's going to have all the essentials.
But he still has it there. Look at that knife. My God.
It's not really big enough. See, you really want a bigger knife for that.
Yeah, can you use a machete next time? I think that was one. All right. Now, before you plop that twist in, unless you already did, before you plop it in, anytime you're using a citrus peel, there are these beautiful oils within that peel. So what we want to do is we want to express that. That's the term, express it on the surface of the drink. So give it a little twist over the top. And then what we're going to do, you got it, Bobby, around the rim. And then we'll gently put that in.
Just smear it.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a moment for my lifetime, making a Boulevardier with Bobby Flay.
Oh, that's so
cheers.
nice. Thank you.
Virtual cheers. All right.
I'm going to cheers my Cosmopolitan.
Yeah.
Now I want to hear, how does this one taste different than the first one you made with all those little additions?
You know, it's definitely cleaner. I can taste every one of the alcohols, every one of the ingredients. Mine was just like, you know, it's what you drink around the pool. This is like a really great cocktail. I mean, there really is a difference. It's amazing. I mean, just like in cooking, with cocktail making, technique is so key.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Cheers.
Well done, Mark. There was a great question that came in. Not sure who it was from, but it said, Bobby Flay, can you name one of your 2-year-olds after some of the names that we came up with in this show? Slap the mint.
I named a 2-year-old. What I think is, and everybody understands this, what I think is my best 2-year-old is named Mezcal, actually.
That's a great name.
So, you know, as close as it can be. Yeah, they're all named.
Bobby, my wife is from Puebla, Mexico, and she introduced me to mezcal. So that's a great name.
I was shocked that Mezcal was available.
What's that?
Up with your names, because he's saying he was surprised Mezcal was available because you can't have a name that's already taken. I mean, there's so many rules that go into it, and so it's difficult to come up with a great name. How do you go about it?
It's usually around 3:45 a.m. when I can't sleep. And I just start kicking around, you know, the Jockey Club, you know, online website to see what's available and what's not. I think the best get I ever got was a filly that I bred. That's a graded stakes winner named America. And everybody was like, how did you get that name? And I said, I just tried to see if it was available, and it was. It was crazy. And her first foal topped the Saratoga sale last year by Curlin. So yeah, I mean, America's been good to me. But so I named one Mezcal. I have one named Taqueria as well.
Awesome.
Don't you have a horse named Fried Rice King?
Fried Rice King. He's running tomorrow. First time.
There are names that stick in your head.
It's a Britney Eurton special.
There you go. It is.
Where does Side Hustle? Mark Keys has reminded us was one of our names as well.
And we've been coming up with plenty of them, right?
Must have gone. But sometimes you're right though. Sometimes the most obvious ones just are available.
I know. I named a Frankel 2-year-old that I have named Pasta. Who would ever think that would be available? Yeah, it's crazy. And I had to get it. It's a French bred actually, and so I had to get it approved in France and the United States, and neither one had taken. It's crazy.
So where is it a he or a she?
It's a filly.
And where is she now?
Right now, she is in Ocala with Paul Sharp, and I'm going to try to. I don't know where I'm going to send her, but we'll see. See what happens.
You race across the country from New York. You talked about Saratoga and how much you love racing there, but then we've seen a West Coast presence recently from Bobby Flay. So how do you decide where you send your horses? You know, are they going to go east or west? And that's tough.
I think that, you know, being part of this whole thing is the experience. I always say it's not even about the winning; it's about participating. Just getting them in the gate, to me, I feel victorious. Anything that happens after that, as long as it's a good trip, I'm thrilled. Because even that's hard to do. But you know, I've been spending some more time on the West Coast. My daughter, as you know, Britney, is in your business. She's a broadcast journalist, and
she's doing fantastic, by the way.
Yeah, in LA, and so I'm spending more time in Los Angeles and in New York, of course. So it just makes sense to be able, you know, to have some horses out at Santa Anita, and I train with Mike McCarthy, and so you know it's great. It's really great.
Which it's all in the line of Todd Pletcher, correct? So
That's
Todd
exactly right.
Pletcher, the Michael train for many years underneath Todd Pletcher.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, Mike, you know, trains. You know, he was. You know, Todd is his mentor, right? I mean, he's one of his mentors, of course. He worked for him for a long time, and so, and Todd is, I feel like, you know, one of the best horsemen in the history of the game. I just love if you ever get a chance and you haven't done it, and you watch him train horses in the morning, it's like military precision. I mean, it's something that is just so incredible to watch. I think. Between him and one of the greatest days I've ever had was at Ballydoyle, And Aidan O'Brien let me spend the day with him, not just a few minutes, but the day. And I learned so much about managing people and work ethic and just an attention to detail that I've never seen in any industry ever by this person. He was just, I was in awe of it. It was amazing. Great day.
And you've had the opportunity of going to Ballydoyle?
Yeah.
Me? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And because of our proximity and the business I'm in, I've been lucky enough to go there several times. And when you hear somebody like Bobby, who's had so much experience in the thoroughbred industry, talking about Aidan O'Brien, you realize how lucky you are to have experienced that. The last time I was there was just before Mendelssohn ran in the Kentucky Derby. Well, we know that didn't work out, but just the extraordinary preparation that went into that horse and the access that they gave us making a feature for NBC that day was just extraordinary. And I think, yes, Aidan enjoys the attention to detail and the precision and everything that goes into preparing these horses as meticulously as he does. But he also knows that, he's part of a huge enterprise and he has his part to play in for want of a better word, marketing that enterprise as well. And he does so with a combination of his ability, but also his ability to communicate what he does to people who have the opportunity to see that. It's an amazing combination of skills that he's able to bring to the game.
Well, he also has the resources, and something that he does, I've never seen anybody else do. Now, I think Joseph, his son, does it too, but I've never seen it here. And Nick, you must know about this. He trains in his Range Rover.
Yeah.
And so when the horses are working, like going 35, 40 miles an hour, he's literally in his truck next to them on the other side of the railing. And he'll say to me that day, he said to me, he said, just look at their eyes. Look at their eyes. They're going 35 miles an hour. He's right next to them. Mm-hmm. It's a different way, obviously a different way of training. And it's just he just gets so, his observance of it all is so much different than what you see here. It's crazy.
I've seen him do things there that I just wouldn't see anybody else I dare to do, essentially. Yes, he's able to, but first, I've never seen anyone drive
he doesn't look in front of him.
No, a four-wheel drive. Those horses are so well drilled that he has the confidence to be able to drive within a millimeter of them, and none of them will move. And the other thing I saw him do, we were filming this for NBC. It's somewhere on the cutting room floor in Stamford. And we've got to find it because
not the feature. The feature was great.
The feature was great, but this particular bit it ended anyway because whatever. But we were definitely shooting at the time, and a 2-year-old got loose at the bottom of one of the gallops. Probably doesn't happen very often there. Head up the gallop towards us at 35 miles an hour, going flat out. And he just, very cool as anything, just put his phone down, was talking to us, trying to do a phone call, supervising a string of horses going up that way. Just hang on a second, lads. Got out of the car, just quietly did that, like a sort of horse whisperer, and just picked him up like that, right in front of the Jeep, stopped about that far away from us. And I looked at every horse at Ballydoyle has the pedigree on the saddle cloth. Yeah. And so you can see everyone's worth $1 million or more. So, it's Galileo out of something or Frankel out of something or whatever it was. It was just insane.
Yeah. It's kind of similar the way that he runs things to maybe, Bobby, you, a chef in the kitchen. It seems like you have to have your attention on so many different things at the same time, but keep this cool, calm, and collected energy about yourself. Have you seen any similarities between the two industries?
Yes, actually, one of the really lovely things about the day was Aidan was asking me about how I run my business, and we talked a lot about the people that work with us, and watching him stopping more than once during the there's basically he has 40 riders, and they usually have about 80 horses at Ballydoyle. So there's a morning, and then there's an early morning and then a late morning sort of run, and he stops and talks to every single person that's working at Ballydoyle and just doesn't say hi. Talks to them by their name, of course, asks about their families, how they're doing in specific names, mean, he is engrossed in with his team. He understands how important they are, and he will ask them their opinions about certain things that are going on with the horses, or the way the horse is running or behaving, or what have you. And he'll just say, "Thank you so much. I will take that in consideration." I mean, he's just. I'm not kidding. I learned a lot about. I learned a lot about life and business that day. Besides being on probably the greatest horse grounds in the world, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, look
here he is.
Here we go.
Yeah. That's him going very slow. I'm talking about when horses are full out working.
Nothing goes amiss.
He's just on top of everything.
Yeah, I'll never forget. I interviewed him before Mendelssohn ran in the Kentucky Derby, and in that piece, Nick, when you interviewed him, he said that he doesn't dream about the Kentucky Derby because it's too vast. That surprised me, coming from a man that's had the success that he's had. He doesn't dream about something of that nature. It surprised me. But his work ethic, the way that you see the horses come out in a line, I saw it both at Santa Anita for the Breeders' Cup, and when I went to Hong Kong, it's a beautiful way of handling your horses and your business, and it's unlike anything we see here in the States. So I think it's, Mark, I'm not sure if you were able to be out at the Breeders' Cup in the mornings at all, but all the Europeans come out later, and it is just the most unique thing you've ever seen in terms of training.
Yeah, usually I get there, kind of more focused on the bar setup and all of that, but kind of rolling there around 10 or 11. But I'm looking forward to this year at Keeneland, really kind of getting that full perspective. Obviously, I'm learning so much from you guys, so I'm going to see it in a whole different light. Yeah.
I think it's worth, as we kind of draw things to a close, reflecting on Keeneland as the host site for this year's Breeders' Cup. And I don't know what you think, Bobby, but if we needed it to be in the cradle of the thoroughbred in any year, it's this year, because it's the year where anything can happen as regards participation, spectators. We don't really know what kind of state the world is going to be in, let alone the horse racing industry. If we're going to run a big horse racing event, having it there where you are guaranteed local support in a year like this is crucial.
Oh, well, sorry.
Yeah, that's a prime example of how he trains each morning.
This is crazy. I mean, so he's basically going 35 miles an hour or 40, whatever this horse is working. And you can see the horse at his, you can see the horse exerting himself at the highest level, which every other trainer does not get to see. That's the thing. He can see if they're ready or not. They also weigh them every single day. We don't do that here.
No. Many trainers don't even have a scale to be able to do that. They now implemented weighing horses before racing sometimes, and they're not listed in the form, which should maybe be added. But it's the way they do things over there, bar none, unbelievable. Okay,
you wiped me out with my Keeneland question, producer.
I'm sorry. So, look, I was still on the board of directors when Keeneland had their initial Breeders' Cup, and there was a lot of discussion about whether or not Keeneland was big enough. Could it handle the crowds? On and on and on. There was a lot of that discussion, and frankly, there were certainly some detractors for sure. But the bottom line is that Keeneland and the city of Lexington did probably as good a job, if not better, than anybody else in terms of making it a full encompassed event. I mean, it was amazing. It was such a great, 3, 4, 5 days, depending on how long you were there, because everybody in Lexington was excited about it. They participated. Keeneland did a great job. They had to put up obviously some temporary seating, but it all worked incredibly well. It was really, you could see that, thoroughbred racing got a gigantic hug. It was terrific.
And then they got the Grand Slam at the end of it with American Pharoah winning the Breeders' Cup Classic. Yeah, pretty epic.
Yeah.
Well, This has been epic. We talk about American Pharaohs epic, but this has been such an enjoyable show. And I know that we've kept people well past an hour. Bobby, we've kept you for quite some time, but this has been a lot of fun. Can personally say I so enjoyed the little show that was going on between Mark and Bobby. I thought that
was awesome.
I told you for 7 weeks we're surplus to requirements. We just need to like get it on air and get out.
Well, thanks for getting me drunk and having me on today. I really appreciate it.
Bobby, you can have a nice little sleep and then go in for the second round at about 6 o'clock your time. It's now way past my bedtime and past midnight, and I'll just fill up another one of these and pass out.
All right, here's to racing coming back. I love it.
Yeah,
here's to horse racing. Mark, Bobby, Brittany, good night, everybody. Thanks for watching again.
Cheers, guys.